Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. Imagine holding the universe in your hands, a device that could tell you the time, navigate the seas, and find the direction of Mecca, all at once. In 10th century Syria, one brilliant Muslim woman mastered this ancient technology and became the royal astronomer to one of the most powerful rulers of her time. This is the remarkable story of Mariam al-Asturlabi, the star mapper of Aleppo. Welcome back to Sages of Islam. Don't hesitate to subscribe and like the video if you enjoy it. Today we're diving into the extraordinary life of a 10th century Muslim woman who revolutionized astronomical instruments. The 10th century was a golden age for Islamic civilization. From Cordoba to Baghdad, Muslim scholars were pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. One such ruler was Sayf al-Dawla, who founded the Hamdanid dynasty in northern Syria and established Aleppo as his capital in 944 CE. His court became a beacon of learning, attracting poets, philosophers, and scientists from across the Islamic world. Our story begins with Mariam al-Ijliyyah, later known as Mariam al-Asturlabi, born into a family of master craftsmen in 10th century Syria. Her father, al-Ijliyyah al-Asturlabi, was an accomplished astrolabe-maker who had trained under the renowned instrument makers of Baghdad. The name al-Asturlabi literally means the astrolabe maker. In medieval Islamic society, formal technical training was primarily a male domain. Craftsmen typically passed their knowledge to their sons, keeping trade secrets within the family. But Mariam's father recognized something extraordinary in his daughter, an exceptional mathematical mind and an intuitive understanding of celestial mechanics. Breaking with convention, al-Ijliyyah brought Mariam into his workshop. He began teaching her the closely guarded secrets of astrolabe construction, the complex mathematical calculations, the precise metalworking techniques, the astronomical principles that governed these remarkable instruments. What he discovered was that Mariam didn't just learn these skills, she mastered them with a depth that surprised even him. To understand Mariam's genius, we need to appreciate the incredible complexity of the astrolabe. Think of it as the ancient world's smartphone, a single device that could perform dozens of functions. But creating one required mastery of multiple disciplines that we today consider separate fields of study. An astrolabe maker needed to understand the movements of the celestial sphere, the positions of major stars, the path of the sun through the zodiac, and the relationship between terrestrial and celestial coordinates. Each astrolabe required hundreds of precise calculations. The maker had to determine the exact positions of star pointers, calculate the curves of the climate lines that marked different latitudes, and figure out the complex projections that allowed a two-dimensional instrument to represent three-dimensional space. The astrolabe consisted of multiple brass plates and components that had to fit together with perfect precision. Every component had to be engraved with tiny, precise markings. A single error in calculation or execution could render the entire instrument useless. What set Mariam apart wasn't just her technical skill. It was her innovative approach to traditional designs. Working without formal mathematical training, she developed engineering techniques that made her astrolabes more accurate and reliable than anything produced by her contemporaries. She refined the mathematical methods used to calculate star positions, developing more precise algorithms for projecting celestial coordinates onto the astrolabe's surface. Perhaps most importantly, Mariam understood that an astrolabe wasn't just a scientific instrument, it was a tool for religious practice. Muslims needed to know the precise times for their 5 daily prayers, and these times varied based on the sun's position throughout the year. During Ramadan, they needed to know the exact moments of sunrise and sunset for fasting. They needed to find the qibla, the direction toward Mecca, regardless of where they were in the world. Mariam's astrolabes excelled at these religious applications. She incorporated features that made it easier to calculate prayer times, added markings that helped users find the qibla direction, and included calendrical information that helped determine the dates of Islamic holidays. Her instruments weren't just scientific tools, they were aids to devotion, helping Muslims fulfill their religious obligations with greater precision. As Mariam's reputation grew, her astrolabes became sought after throughout the Islamic world. Merchants, scholars, and navigators prized her instruments for their accuracy and reliability. Each piece was essentially a work of art, combining mathematical precision with beautiful craftsmanship that reflected the Islamic aesthetic tradition. Word of her exceptional abilities eventually reached the court of Sayf al-Dawla in Aleppo. This was no ordinary achievement. Sayf al-Dawla was known for his discerning taste and his ability to attract the greatest minds of his time. His court included al-Mutanabi, considered one of the greatest Arabic poets, and numerous other scholars and artists. When Sayf al-Dawla learned of Mariam's extraordinary abilities, he immediately invited her to join his court as a royal astronomer. This appointment was remarkable for several reasons. First, it elevated a woman to a position of scientific authority in a royal court. Second, it recognized practical craftsmanship as equal to theoretical knowledge. Mariam's hands-on expertise was valued alongside the work of philosophers and mathematicians. In Sayf al-Dawla's court, Mariam wasn't just making astrolabes. She was contributing to the broader intellectual culture of the time. She would have interacted with other scholars, shared her knowledge, and participated in the debates and discussions that drove scientific progress. Her workshop became a center of learning where other craftsmen could study her techniques and innovations. Mariam's work had implications far beyond the borders of Syria. The astrolabes she created traveled with merchants along the Silk Road, sailed with navigators across the Mediterranean, and guided pilgrims on their journeys to Mecca. Each instrument carried her innovations to new regions, influencing local instrument makers and spreading her technical improvements throughout the Islamic world. Her success also challenged prevailing assumptions about women's capabilities in technical fields. While Islamic civilization was generally more supportive of women's education than contemporary societies, there were still barriers and limitations. Mariam's achievements demonstrated that these barriers were social constructs rather than natural limitations. Working in a male-dominated field, Mariam faced challenges that her male contemporaries didn't encounter. She had to prove herself repeatedly, demonstrating not just competence, but excellence. The fact that she succeeded in gaining royal patronage suggests that her work was not just good, it was exceptional enough to overcome the prejudices of her time. To truly appreciate Mariam's genius, consider the complexity of what she accomplished. Each astrolabe represented months of work, involving hundreds of calculations and thousands of precise engravings. She had to master multiple coordinate systems, understand the relationships between terrestrial and celestial measurements, and translate complex three-dimensional relationships into two-dimensional representations. Mariam's work was deeply embedded in Islamic religious and cultural practice. The astrolabe wasn't just a scientific instrument, it was a tool for spiritual life. Muslims used it to determine the qibla direction for prayer, calculate the times of the 5 daily prayers, and identify the beginning and end of Ramadan. During the medieval period, when mechanical clocks were rare and often unreliable, the astrolabe provided the most accurate method for timekeeping. Mariam al-Asturlabi's innovations influenced instrument makers for centuries. Her technical improvements were adopted and further developed by subsequent generations of craftsmen. The astrolabes produced in Islamic Spain, North Africa, and the Eastern Islamic world all showed traces of her influence. When astronomical knowledge began to transfer from the Islamic world to medieval Europe, astrolabes played a crucial role. European scholars translated Islamic astronomical texts that included detailed descriptions of astrolabe construction and use. The instruments themselves also traveled to Europe, where they influenced the development of European astronomy and navigation. Unfortunately, like many remarkable women in history, Mariam's story has been largely overlooked by popular accounts of Islamic civilization. While her technical achievements were recognized by her contemporaries, later historians often focused on male scholars and overlooked women's contributions. This erasure is particularly tragic because Mariam's story challenges common misconceptions about women's roles in medieval Islamic society. Mariam's work connects directly to technologies we use today. The mathematical principles she employed in projecting celestial coordinates onto flat surfaces are the same ones used in modern GPS systems. The precision timing methods she developed for calculating prayer times laid groundwork for the accurate timekeeping that modern technology depends upon. Her story also resonates with contemporary discussions about women in STEM fields. The barriers she faced, skepticism about women's technical abilities, the need to prove herself repeatedly, the challenge of working in male-dominated environments, are issues that women in science and engineering still confront today. Mariam al-Asturlabi's story is ultimately one of excellence transcending barriers. In an age when women's contributions to science were often overlooked or forgotten, she earned recognition and respect in the highest circles of power. She proved that genius knows no gender, and that dedication and skill can overcome even the most rigid social conventions. Her legacy lives on every time we use GPS navigation, check the time on our phones, or look up at the stars. She was part of that great tradition of Islamic scholars who preserved and advanced human knowledge during the medieval period, ensuring that the light of learning continued to shine. More broadly, Mariam represents the countless women throughout history whose contributions have been forgotten or minimized. By recovering and telling her story, we not only honor her achievements, but also challenge ourselves to look more carefully for the women who have always been part of humanity's scientific and cultural progress. Her work reminds us that the Islamic Golden Age wasn't just about famous male scholars in Baghdad or Cordoba. It was also about skilled craftswomen in Damascus, innovative engineers in Cairo, and brilliant astronomers in Aleppo. What aspect of Mariam's story inspired you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video if you learned something new today. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about remarkable Islamic figures. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, the stars have always been our guide.